Record on this computer. All right. What questions do we have today? Oh, I don't want that.
Well, I just realized you posted a video Monday, and I haven't looked at that one yet, so it might go over it already. It was an older video. But my question is, when you're doing payroll, what is your formula to get that SUTA to come up for all the columns? I get the if it's less than 7,000, then it calculates, but like this last time, well, I'm actually working on March's payroll,
Right.
and there's just a small balance left for, let's see, what is the name here? Oh, the person in the middle. Yes, move it over
Mark
here.
Hallinger.
Yeah.
So let me, and you're curious about the formula for the SUTA.
Yes.
Got it. So I'm going to share my screen of my March QBO payroll answer key. And we can essentially look at what I've done. I can't remember exactly what I did. I don't even know if this has formulas in it. Doesn't look like it has formulas in it. The employer portion, journal entries. Are you talking about up here?
No, the SUTA, the employer portion.
Employer portion of SUTA.
I get not SUTA. I meant FUTA. You know, the $2.40 there. So I came up with one formula, and it figured the $2.40 fine, but then it came up with a negative amount for Walter. So how do you figure that balance?
So let's see here. So what I've done in other, and then I'm gonna just test it here and kind of write it out. So we have, if, where am I looking at? The employer's earning to date, which we have right there, 9,090. Employee year-to-date earnings. Why is it 240?
Because it's just a little bit, it's $400 times the 0.006%.
Oh, we're still at 6,600, right?
Yeah.
So a portion of that, I see, and then the remainder is up there. So, and this is our year to date. I was looking at this 9,000, but it's going to be the total of those two. So that is a good question because it's a mix of the two, right?
Right. Well, I got it to work for Mark and Jill, but when I copied it down, I had a negative number for Walter on my formula because I put something like, if it is less than 7,000, then you take the earnings from the year to date. Anyway, whatever I did, it didn't work.
Right. So I guess you'd have to have a two factor or two variable equation or query, because you have to say, if this is less than 7,000, then multiply it by the difference between this and this. And if it's not, if this isn't less than 7,000, then it would be 0. So, and this is, I haven't done this just because it is a unique question in the fact that the formula, you can go forward into, you know, for the entire year, but you'll run into this instance when they get to that 7,000 point. But essentially you say, if this is less than 7,000, then well, if this is less than 7,000, value is true, you have to take the current period wages minus the year-to-date period wages.
And
So
times it by 6% or 0.6%.
yeah, so I would take this minus our previous current period wages and times that by 0.06. If not, just leave it blank. That's not what I want. Because all I want is 400. No, it's this. I guess instead of the 360, what I want is actually just 7,000. That's still not, 0.6%. Right, 6%. Still too high. Why am I too high?
Do you have the formulas for February? Because I didn't.
No, I don't think I have the formulas for February. My key,
Okay.
again, I haven't played with the keys very much. But the key that I have for is just if it's less than 7,000 times by that. But in this instance, you have to really play with that line of take up to 7,000 and then subtract, because essentially what we're looking for is 400 times 0.06, right?
Yes. Well, it's actually $2.40. So it's one more zero in there, I think.
Right. Is that what I'm missing? Additional zero.
And all I knew for February is that I had to have $42 from each person. So I subtracted 42 from the other people. So I didn't really come up with a calculation for February either. But.
Let me see February. Yeah, because February's would have just been essentially everyone was under, right?
Yeah.
Where's my February? Oh, here it is.
But I guess you still had to come up with a difference.
Right. So let me, if I formula E10. So marks. Q10 is less than 7 minus E10.
And we could come back to this if you like, if you want to just post a formula or something.
My February key is exactly like my March key. Why is that? That doesn't make any sense. why my keys are off.
Well, each month is the same on their earnings, but the federal does change the FUTA.
Right. So are these February's numbers 7,000, 6,600, and 10,200? Because January would have been
Things black.
3,500, 3,300, 5,100. February would have been 7,000, 6,600, 10,200.
Yeah.
March would have been 3, right? Instead of 2.
Yes.
So even my key is messed up.
Well, you're on Marches right now?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have January, February, March to take care of. And that takes care of this. But February's would have been like this. Right?
Yeah.
These numbers are odd. My March key is off because these numbers should be times 3. So did you say you were doing March or February?
I was doing March. Let's see.
And are these the numbers you had for March?
Let's see. Pull this over here so I can see. All right, I found. Let's see. So when it says earnings for March 31st, I totaled, that's where I put the total, but I wasn't quite sure on those columns. Why do we want it to say wages for current period? And then it says earnings for March 31st. Do we want to add up the year to date? And
well, these numbers help you get this number down here.
yeah.
So
well, what
you
I
essentially
did,
take.
I did year to date. I had 7,000
Oh yeah,
up there. And then wages for current period was 35, and I added those two together. So earnings March 31st, I kind of put the year is, I have 10.5 in that third column.
Oh yeah.
But
Well,
I don't know.
Sense.
I was trying, I did it different for February. I was just trying to figure out the table.
Yeah, I think this number is wrong down here, right? Well, this isn't wrong because you have January,
Yeah.
February, and then you plus Marches, and then that's both of those added together. My
Yeah.
February key is taking, yeah, and you can't even see my February key, but my February key is all messed up. And that's why I'm confused. That's why, where's my desktop to? So here we have January year to date. Well, these are earnings, February wages up to current period. Earnings. I don't even know what our wages are. So are these, this is a monthly entry though, right?
Yeah, they've been the same for the 3 months so far. 35,
Yeah.
33, and 51.
Got it. So this should be 1. This should be 1. Wages up to current period, and then the current period. And this does my entry down here. The wages up to current period or year-to-date wages is just 1 month. This month's activity total are down here, which gives us our unemployment. But those unemployment should match our formula if you want to play with that formula.
See, they changed the table a little bit on February and March. The titles of those columns, they're just a little confusing, I think.
Yeah. And I don't think this
See.
formula matches what we can do. Because again, I don't think we can solve all our formulas. Well, I'm sure we could, but it's not going to solve it because there's a certain amount that needs to get pushed into the next period and stay in this period.
Yeah, and the way
I
I
think-
solved it, I knew each person had to have $42 withheld total. So I just took 21 from 42. And then the middle one worked okay. And same with that third number. And then I moved on to March because I wasn't sure how to do it.
Yeah, I would need some more time to consider what. It's not even that, it's actually this. So if F9 is, if E9 is less than 7,000, then times F9. And that's the formula for.
Yeah, I like March's table headings better than February's. How it says year to date, then wages for current period, then earnings March 31st. But
that's not right. And this is the same one where it crosses that period, right? That year-to-date earnings right there, and then additional 5,000, but we only need to take the difference between the two. So even in February, we're dealing with it just on a different person.
mm-hmm.
There's my formula. Trying to match things, which I don't want it to do. So there's one formula to figure out when they get to that point, but to determine between the two and actually make it formulaic. So you'd have to do an if-then statement like if this is less than 7,000, then take this times 0.006. And if not, value is false, then you can do another if-then statement embedded in this if-then statement.
Well, so this is what I tried. I did if G8 minus, this is for March, if G8 minus E8 is less than 7,000, then 7,000 minus E8 times 0.006 and then 0. And it worked for the first two people, but Walter Jenkins ended up being a negative.
Right, because you're taking the, I think we might have to do additional an if-then statement embedded inside of it. So it says, if it's less than 7,000, then take that. And if it's not less than 7,000, then check. Well, the issue is going to be if it's less than 7,000, then take the difference, but then the difference doesn't make sense. And I think you're running into the same issue I'm running into, that it's gonna cause negatives if you subtract things and find the differences. And
Maybe
you
we
have to have
just
a
don't
two
pay any
variable
attention to the
system.
negatives.
Yeah, that might be the easiest thing.
Get
And
rid
I've
of the
never
negative.
really considered, because if it is a negative, then obviously we're taking out too much for FUTA,
Yeah.
and it's the calculations running into issues because of that. And if you put your calculation into this formula over here with Walter Jenkins, I'm sure it's going to run into the same issue,
Mhm.
that it's making it so it's not less than 7,000.
Right.
And Jill just happens to have a perfect 7,000, so it's essentially equal to or less than 7,000, so we're not running into any issues. But for anyone else, you'd have to, let me play with it, and again, after March, you're not going to have to deal with it at all because everyone's over 7,000.
Okay.
But that's a good point, and it would be helpful to have a formula that I can reference going forward. But I'm going to have to think about how to do it, because it's going to be essentially an if-then statement with a false value, with the true value looking at the if again. So if it's less than 7,000, then do another if-then statement of, look at this. No, I have to think about it.
Okay. Well, thank
So
you.
that's a good question, but I don't have an answer.
Okay.
But I'll look
Sounds
at it.
good. All right. And then I just have one comment. It's not or a learning experience. I kept forgetting to change the purchase order to a bill, and I went back and corrected a few things, but I had the wrong date on the bill, and my inventory numbers were off, and I couldn't see. So just by changing the date, you can actually change your inventory numbers. So just so people know that.
No, great.
I
I appreciate that. Yes, because that's a big thing. That's what I think I've commented in my announcements, to pay attention to the dates, because they make a big difference. And do you understand why that is? Because if you have a purchase order,
yeah.
and really the purchase orders doesn't affect anything. It doesn't really affect any of your GL or accounting or your accounts until it becomes a bill, until it becomes like the AP. And then at that point, it becomes a bill when you receive your inventory, and becomes a liability, and you get the assets. So depending on when you put that date for the bill, it will depend on what your assets are on your inventory and your balance sheet and everything else. So yes, I agree. Thank you for that learning experience.
Yeah, the date for the bill, the date for the bill definitely changed things. So thank you.
Yes, and also it changes like your reorder points as you get closer to running out of inventory. If you put the wrong date, it runs out sooner or later than what the course is as built, basically. So yes, I agree. Thank you for that comment to reiterate and validate my announcements. Other questions? Magna said she doesn't have any questions for now. Vanessa, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, I do. Actually,
awesome.
It's last class you kind of explained, and I thought I understood, but then when I tried to do it, it didn't work. I'm stuck on the reconciliation of the payment, because and then one of them don't get paid straight away. So
Right.
I have that open as a balance in my reconciliation, and then now I'm stuck. I don't know what to do with it because I don't have it.
Right. Yeah, so I have your set of books. Can I share your books and we can review
Yeah,
what
sure.
you're doing and what you're seeing? Hopefully you're seeing what I'm pulling up. So as you reconcile, which I've told everyone we should be reconciling, hopefully everything's reconciled. We can look at it. And we have this 2,890 difference.
Yeah, that's exactly the payment that one of them is supposed to receive, but he didn't do the check yet.
Yeah. That's because, so we have January. Where is it? So let's look at that payment. So this, I'm gonna have to research what has been done to understand how to address it. So let's go back to January 1, 2022 and keep it limited to February. Now we have payroll journal entry, depending how you did it.
I did here a journal entry.
So you did it as a journal entry.
Yeah, number 1. That's the one. Yeah.
Payroll liabilities, payroll expenses. Well, let's see here. So I'm gonna open up January QBO payroll. So this journal entry, where did you payroll expenses? Okay, we have the full payroll expenses. And then we have the cash. Did you reconcile that full 10,147?
Yeah, that's the total amount of the 3 payments.
Yes, it is the total, but the issue is you reconciled. Yeah. Okay. So I see what was done. So let me stop share and share my full screen. Oh, where's that? There we go. So this report, that journal entry. Let's see a journal entry. So we need that journal entry 1. So these journal entries, as you can see on the left-hand screen, are January journal entries that we need to make. I can see that you can bind them. That makes sense. That's okay. And you can bind this amount for the total of 13,095.95. That's fine.
Yeah.
And then the cash, though, and that's why I think I made this comment in the announcements to not put it to cash, or rather put it to these checks specifically, to put these checks to payroll liabilities. And that's why I've changed these to 2,400.
Okay.
And
so it
instead
is
of
better
doing,
to separate them, just like the one from the Excel.
for the, not necessarily, but it's just not cash. So you can do this, of payroll liabilities 10,157.70. and be done with it. And then we hit save and close. And I'm just going to do this for you because it's a good learning for everyone else that's having the same issue. But then we come here and we say we cut a check. And here we cut a check to Jill Sudbury for, this is the end, so January. What were the dates on the PDF? Do you know? January 28th or something?
Yeah, the payroll, yes. It's 20th.
Okay. Payroll dates is 28th. So January 28th. Category, here we go 2400, payroll liabilities. And then Jill Sudbury is 3043. And we understand why we're hitting 24, or we're hitting 2400 on this check instead of the wages expense, right? Because when we did our journal entry, we already hit our expenses to book that for the P&L. And now when we actually cut the check, we're taking it out of the payroll liabilities. We're going to do 3 separate checks for these payroll liabilities. Mark Hallenberg, is this Mark Hansen? Or do I have to add Mark Hallenberg? Hollinger, 2 L's, Hollinger. First name Mark, last name Hollinger. And you could set these up like as employees instead of vendors. But I think this gets into, and then you can add all this like actual payroll stuff, and it gets into payroll management and other stuff. But really all we need for our purposes in this class is the name and as the payee. And then we can do it out of there. 128, same thing. Here we hit 2400. Liabilities. I didn't put a description last time. January payroll. And then Mark Hollinger is 2890.90. Save and close. And lastly, we'll do one more check to Walter Jenkins. I don't see Walter in here either. Just fine. Add new. We'll do employee Leroy Jenkins. And again, we don't really need, for our purposes for this class, we don't need this stuff, but if you actually have a business and using their payroll module, it's very helpful for employee management. And then 421380. There we go, save and close. Oh, battery running out on my headset. And now when we go to our reconciliation, that's when you'll be able to resume reconciliation. Uncheck these. And now there's a 0 difference because when you're reconciling, this is still outstanding. Even though you printed it in January 28th, it's still outstanding. So for February, and the same thing with these. So for journal 2, you'll have to change it again and do what I just did. So essentially go to journal 2, put it to 2400, and then cut the checks. But for this, we can finish that now, and that's reconciled. And then for journal 2, you'll want to change these to 2400 and not the Um,
11, the bank one.
yeah, and not the bank. And that's more, let me see, actually. Let me check one thing. Because I'm pretty sure for reconciliation purposes, even if you broke it out in this journal too as 3 separate line items, and we did 30, 43, 28, 90, 90, and 42, 13, 80. Save and close. As you reconcile ending balance, I don't know what the ending balance is, but let's say 230,000. You'll have to change that when you go to edit it. But for March, start reconciliation. Oh, so it looks like you could actually not do that whole process of issuing a check and everything else if you did separate line items on the journal, because these are
Okay.
different line items. So you could just
So it's better to
reconcile
do it
those
together.
portions.
Okay.
So yeah, this looks, in my mind, it looks a little bit more professional how you see the check, and that's a physical check that you sent out. But for class purposes, you could have the journal entries and a line item the journal entries and just put these to cash, but have separate line items. So there's 2 ways of doing it. If you, whichever way you want to do it, you can do it that way. In the end, it's going to flow to the bank the same. Expenses will be there. Payroll liability will be different if you have the. So let me check one more thing, actually, because your reports on the balance sheet for February. At the end of February. We have payroll liabilities at the end of January 2009, 480, 25. But you cut the check, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so either way, it's not going to matter. If you do it through the journal entry and do it as separate line items, or if you do it through the check and issue that check the same day, it's going to be the same. Because for accounting purposes, your books show that you've affected cash and show that you've taken it out of, or essentially never touched payroll liabilities, depending on how you did it. So.
Hey, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Hopefully that didn't confuse you more. Hopefully it cleared up some things.
No, it did. It did.
Stop sharing. Oh, yeah. I was trying to show QuickBooks as well. Magna said I wasn't showing QuickBooks. But yes, I was trying to show QuickBooks as well. And I'll show. Essentially on this journal entry, number 2, this is the way I was saying to do it. Either you have to do it as separate line items, or you put it all to 2,400, and then you cut checks out of 2,400. Where's my payroll liability? And thanks for asking that question, Magna. But here's another option. So my first journal entry, I put everything to payroll liabilities, and then I cut checks out of payroll liabilities. So when I reconcile, I just leave this one unchecked because it didn't get paid. And do that, or you enter a journal entry as separate line items and leave this line item unchecked when you do your reconciliations in here. Because now we have this one check that never got cashed, and we have these line items from a journal entry for the February month. And I reconciled January for you already. Which shows here. That I reconciled those two checks and then left this check unreconciled. All right, other questions?
No, I'm
Nothing?
good.
Okay. Kind of bummed out that I wasn't sharing the QuickBooks that whole time, and I didn't see Magna's message until after I stopped sharing. You were supposed to jump on and say, Tony, Brother Lopez, you're not showing anything. But yeah, hopefully everyone understood what I was talking about, because I was pointing to it and I was doing everything in QuickBooks, and I was thinking to myself, oh, this is so helpful and so great, but it wasn't. Okay, well, if that's all, then I'll let you guys go, and I'll take this video and oh, okay. Thanks, Magna. I'll go and post this video to the announcements as well, and hopefully it helps other students in the class out as they work through their months as well. Okay, well, thank you. We'll talk to you all later, next week, most likely.
Thank you, Brother Lopez.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you later. Bye.